Now we'll discuss about some important Rajput states which were present around 9th century and they continued till the arrival of the Mughals. They played also important role during Mughal period. The Mughal kings failed to subdue them, and finally during the time of Akbar, you know that some type of conciliation or peace was established between Akbar and the other Rajput kings, and it is believed that if Akbar became successful in establishing a big Mughal empire in India, it was because of the Rajputs who supported the monarch in all aspects of his developments. So, when we discuss about some important Rajput dynasties, first important dynasty was Pratiharas. We have already discussed about the Pratiharas. They were Gujjar Pratiharas. It is believed that the Pratiharas were the Rajputs, but most of the scholars believe that there is no relationship between the Gujjar Pratiharas and the Rajputs. Even some believe that the Rajputs were the local chieftains of the Gujjar Pratiharas. They were the Samantas or local chiefs of the Gujjar Pratiharas. And after the decline of Gujjar Pratiharas, the Rajputs became prominent in Indian history. So the Gujjar Pratiharas, they were accepted as the first important Rajput dynasty which ruled in the middle of Indo-Gangetic region, taking Kannauj as the capital. There are two important centers of administration were Ujjain in the west and Kannauj in the east. So it was the Pratiharas, they were the most important Rajput dynasty of India. It is described in Prithviraj Raso that the Gujjar Pratiharas were the Agnikula Kshatriyas, who were born from the famous sacrificial pyre or pit along with three other Rajputs. But the Pratiharas never used the epithet Rajput for themselves. Rather, the Rajputs originated after the decline of the Pratiharas. I have already told you that some scholars believe that the Rajputs were the first feudatories of the Pratiharas who became powerful out of the ruins of the former empire. These Pratiharas claimed that they were the descendants of the legendary hero Lakshmana, who is said to have acted as the Pratihar or the doorkeeper of his brother Rama. Nagabhatta was the important king of the Pratiharas. He conquered Malwa and he became the ruler of Gwalior area. He also occupied the fort of Bharukacha of Bharuch of Gujarat. He established his capital at Avanti in Malwa and checked the expansion of the Arabs who had established themselves in Sindh. Nearly 16 rulers succeeded Nagabhatta. One of the important king of the Nagabhatta was Mihir Bhoja, who expanded the Pratihara dominions west to the border of Sindh, east to Bengal and south to the Narmada. His son Mahendrapala expanded further eastward in Magadha, Bengal and Assam. He is regarded as the best ruler of this dynasty. Mahmud of Ghazni captured Kannauj in 1018 and the Pratihar ruler Rajapala fled. He was subsequently captured and killed by the Chandala ruler Vidyadhara. This is the area of Gujjar Pratihar area. This is your Kannauj, Ujjain, and this is Kannauj. This area, the Gujjar Pratihars ruled. Next important dynasty is the Paramaras. In the beginning of Pratiharas possessed Malwa, but after their downfall, the Paramaras dynasty captured it. Bakapati II and Bhoja were two prominent kings of Paramar dynasty. Bakapati II ruled from 973 to 996 AD. During his period, the military strength of Malwa increased much and a lot of development took place in cultural field. The boundaries of this empire spread far and wide. After Bakapati II, Siddharaja ruled for some years. After Siddharaja, Bhoja became the king who was the most powerful king of this dynasty. He ruled from 1010 to 1055 AD, about 45 years. During his time, he fought many wars and conquered Chedi, Karnat, Lat. Besides Bhoja, there are other kings also. He is known as Kabiraja. His wife Arundhati was also a great scholar. The king accorded patronage to scholars like Dharmapala, Suholara and poetess Sita. After Bhoja, many rulers succeeded him, but all were weak and incapable. So in 1135 AD, Malwa was captured by the Chalukya ruler Jai Singh Siddharaj. The next important Rajput dynasty is the Chandelas of Jijakhabhuti. They were feudatories of the Pratiharas. In the 11th century, they became independent. There is no definite view accepted by all the historians regarding their origin. Different scholars give different opinions regarding the origin of these Chandelas. Some inscriptions describe them as Kshatriyas of Chandravansha. V.S. Smith calls them Gaunts. R.C. Majumdar also supports him. The original home of the Chandelas were Khajuraho, Chhatarpur, Mahoba, Kalinjar, Rajgarh, etc. Nanuka was the first ruler of this dynasty. The other important rulers of this dynasty includes Bakapati, Jayasakti, Yashovarmana, Ganda, Vidyadhara, Vijayapal, etc. Paramardi was the last important ruler of Chandelas, who was defeated by Prithviraj Chauhan. The Chandelas are chiefly famous for the temples of Khajuraho, fort of Kalinjar and palace of Mahoba. Next important dynasty of the Rajputs is the Chalukyas of Anhilwara. The Chalukya dynasty, also known as the Chalukyas of Gujarat, ruled parts of what are now Gujarat and Rajasthan in northwestern India between 940 AD to 1244 AD. Their capital was located at Anhilwara or modern Patan. At times their rule extended to the Malwa region in present-day Madhya Pradesh. The medieval legends describe them as Agnivansha Rajputs. The Chalukyas are also known as Solankis. This state of Chalukyas had much significance because the foreigners ruled over the northwestern region of the state were shaped by these Chalukyas. Mularaja was the founder of this Chalukya dynasty. The bravest and ablest ruler of this dynasty was the Jai Singh Siddharaja, who ruled from 1094 AD to 1144 AD. He successfully tried to extend the frontiers of his empire. After him, Kumarapala became the king of Chalukyas. He defeated the king of Konkana named Mallikarjuna. He also conquered the ruler of Ajmer named Arno Raja. He captured Saurashtra. After him, Ajayapal ruled the Chalukya kingdom. His son Mulraj II succeeded him as the ruler of Anhilwara. During his time, Muhammad Ghori attacked India and Mulraj defeated him in a war. After his death, Bhima II succeeded him. He bravely faced the invasion of Qutbuddin Aibak and forced him to go back. Now we go to the Chauhamanas or Chauhanas. Chauhan or Chauhan is the word. Chauhan is the vernacular form of the Sanskrit term Chauhamana. Several Chauhan inscriptions name a legendary hero called Chauhamana as their ancestor, but none of them state the period in which he lived. The earlier extant inscription that describes the origin of the Chauhanas is the 1119 AD Sevhadi inscription of Ratnapala, a ruler of the Nadula Chauhamana dynasty. According to this inscription, the ancestor of the Chauhamanas was born from the eyes of Indra. The Ajmer inscription of the Sakambari Chauhamana ruler Vigraharaja claims that Chauhamana belonged to the Solar dynasty, descending from Ikshyaku and Rama. The 12th century Prithviraj Vijaya Mahakavya, composed by Prithviraj III's court poet Jayanaka, also believed that the Rajputs were of Agni Kula Kshatriyas. Now we come to Guhila dynasty. The Guhila dynasty ruled the Medo part or modern Mewar region in present-day Rajasthan state of India. The Guhila kings initially ruled as Gurjar Pratihar vassals between 8th to 10th centuries. Their capitals included Nagaharad or Nagada and Aghata or Ahar. For this region, they are also known as the Nagada Ahar branch of the Guhilas. The Guhilas assumed sovereignty after the decline of the Gurjar Pratiharas in the 11th century. During the 11th to 13th centuries, they were involved in military conflicts with several of their neighbors, including the Paramaras, the Chauhanas, the Delhi Sultanate, the Chalukyas, and the Baghelas. In the mid-12th century, the dynasty divided into two branches. The senior branch, whose rulers are called Rawal in the later medieval literature, ruled from Chitrakuta or modern Chittorgarh, and ended with Ratna Singha's defeat against the Delhi Sultanate at the 1303 siege of Chittorgarh. According to the Ekalinga Mahatmya, Bappa Rawal established the Mewar kingdom in 728 AD. The junior branch ruled from Sesoda with the title Rana and gave rise to the Sisodiya dynasty. Another important clan of the Rajputs is the Rathors. The Rathor is a clan of Rajputs found in the northern India. They form a part of the 36 Rajput clans. Some of the other groups who claim to be the Rathor origin are Marathas. Alternative spellings include Rathur, Rathor, Rathor, Rathod, etc. The bravery of the Rathor horsemen was appreciated by the foreigners. The Rathors variously claim descent from the mythical Suryavanshi dynasty or Chandravanshi dynasty. The Rathor states, various cadets branches of the Rathor clan gradually spread to encompass all of Marwar and later founded states in central India and Gujarat. The Marwar royal family is considered the head house of Rathors. At the time of India's independence in 1947, the princely states ruled by various branches of the Rathors clan included the Jodhpur Rathors, the Bikaner Rathors, the Kishanganj Rathors, the Idar Rathors, the Ratlam Rathors, the Jhabua Rathors, the Sitamau Rathors, the Soilana Rathors, and the Ali Rajpur Rathors. These Rathor dynasties ruled a large number of areas and ultimately they proved themselves one of the powerful Rajput houses of medieval period. Now we go to the Gahodabhals of Kannauj. The Gahodabhal dynasty ruled over Uttar Pradesh and part of Bihar during the 11th and 12th centuries. Their capital was located on Varanasi for a brief period and they controlled Kanakibja or Kannauj. In the medieval period, the Gahodabhals were classified as one of the Rajput clans. Chandradeva was the first monarch of this dynasty. But this dynasty is famous because the king Jayachandra. Jayachandra is the king of the Gahodabhals whose daughter Sanjukta married Prithviraj Chauhan, and it is believed that this Gahodabhal king Jayachandra invited the Ghurids to come to India and to remove Prithviraj Chauhan from power. Now we will discuss about the Rajputa administration. Rajputa administration, and we will discuss about the central administration. It was an absolute monarchy and the system was mostly based on feudal system, but the ultimate supreme power was in the hands of the king. He used the title, the high title like Parama Bhattaraka, Parameswara and Rajadhiraja or Parama Radhadhiraja. The head of all the in administrative affairs was the king. It was hereditary, and the crown usually passed to the eldest and sometimes to the ablest one. The practice of a primogeniture, or giving throne to the eldest son, was not the only way of succession. The clan members had to play decisive role in it. A group of ministers consists of prime minister, foreign minister, revenue minister, treasurer, a chief justice, commander-in-chief and purohit all helped the king in the performance of his administrative duties. Samanta system was highly in use in Rajput states. Clan ties played an important role in it. Each clan member considered himself eligible to rule as a king. Clan members wield immense authority and could challenge the authority of the king. They could establish a new state if they conquered. The administration of the Rajput states was based on caste system. Only the people of the higher caste was associated with the administration. Even the king belonged to his caste. The Rajput clan to which the king belonged, its members shared the maximum power of the state. They were high officials in the army and in administration. The state was divided into number of units, each under the control of the mukhya, or the leader of the dominant caste. If the king acted contrary to the interests of the estate or caste group, the leaders could remove him from office and appoint someone else from the same caste group of his place. This system of administration underwent certain changes after the establishment of the Sultanate. The powers of the king enormously increased at the cost of caste leaders. In the provincial administration, the Rajput Empire was divided into several provinces or rastras, which were further divided into Visayas or the districts, which in turn were divided in bhuktis. The bhuktis were further divided into small groups of 10 to 20 villages. The provinces were headed by Rashtrapati. He was also in charge of revenue administration, and he was responsible for tax collection. Visayas were headed by Visayapati or Bhogapati at Tehsil level. They performed their duties of revenue collection. Village administration was carried on by the village headman and the village accountant. The headman was responsible for maintaining law and order. The headman had a local militia at his disposal. The Rajput states were mostly military in nature. That means almost all Rajput states were there because of their military power. The military organization of the Rajput state was also based on caste system. Each sub-leader of the caste maintained his own units of army, which fought under his own leadership during the war. With the establishment of the Sultanate, the military organization of the Rajput states also underwent a change. The king started maintaining an army of his own and became less dependent on his sardars or feudal chiefs. This army consisted of infantry as well as cavalry. In course of time, most of the Rajput states came under the control of the Mughals, and the local nobles were made mansabdars on hereditary basis and granted the necessary jagirs. The Rajputs were very ambitious, and no wonder they did all that they could to make their military machine powerful and efficient. They maintained powerful armies to fulfill their aspirations. The use of elephant in the war sometimes strengthens the army, but in many occasions these elephants trampled their own army. Hence, this was one of the reasons of defeat of the Rajputs at the time when they had the upper hand. About half of the revenue was spent upon the army because the kings maintained its own army, and yet he had to depend upon army of feudal lords. Revenue system was elaborate. The political structure of the Rajput states was based on the feudal character, just like of Europe. The king grants land and received grants as a tax on behalf of the land. When Zamindar received a king's grant of land for the service, and land was called his Jagir. The Zamindar who takes care of the king's land called Jagirdar, and they have to maintain a small army according to the charger so that they can help the king at the time of war. The king's power lies on the Zamindar, and also this army was not regularly trained. An important characteristic of Rajput polity was the distribution of land among the Rajput clans, which led to the emergence of large estates. The grouping of villages into blocks comprising of 6 or multiple of 6 or 85 villages led to the emergence of territorial administrative units. The forts built in this period were an expression of political authority of the ruling clans, and these forts drew sustenance from the continuous landloadings, and it formed a part of the territorial system of Rajput polity. Marriage alliances among the various Rajput clans also had their impact in the political sphere. The inter-clan marriages confined to Rajput's ruling elites. Social groups who acquired power in this period and emerged as ruling elites also legitimized their position socially and politically by entering into marriage alliances with established Rajput lineages and through Kshatriyaization. It appears that by the 13th century, the Rajputra category indicated not only the political position, but it became hereditary. There was growth and expansion of Rajput clans network. Now we will go to cultural achievements of the Rajputs. The Rajputs were mostly followed Brahmanism and worshipped Shiva and Vishnu. They also worshipped different goddesses, establishing their temples in the forts as Kuladevati. These goddesses became associated with the military festivals of the Rajputs. Besides, many Brahmanical sacrifices were performed during this period. Temples were constructed to install images. Jainism was also patronized by Solanki rulers in Gujarat. Art and architecture. During this period, a special type of architecture, that is Moru Gurjara architecture school, developed. Moru Gurjara architecture was developed during Gurjara Pratihara Empire. Moru Gurjara architecture, Chalukya style or Solanki style, is a style of northern Indian temple architecture that originated in Gujarat and Rajasthan from the 11th to 13th centuries under the Chalukya dynasty or Solanki dynasty. Although originating as a regional style in Hindu temple architecture, it became especially popular in Jaina temples and mainly under Jaina patronage, later spread across India and to diaspora communities around the world. On the exteriors, the style is distinguished from other northern Indian temple styles of the period, in that the external walls of the temples have been structured by increasing numbers of projections and recesses, accommodating sharply carved statues in niches. That is, external walls of the temples have been structured by increasing numbers of projections and recesses, accommodating sharply carved statues in niches. The Somnath temple, dedicated to Shiva, was the most famous temple of Gujarat, was very largely destroyed by Ghaznavid ruler of Mahmud in 124 to 125 AD. The Sun temple of Modhera of Gujarat was built in 1026 to 1027 AD, just after Mahmud's reign. You can see this Rajput structure of architecture is in the Telika Mandir of Gwalior. You will find Vishnu temple of Khajuraho. Khajuraho temple epitomized the Rajput style of architecture. You will find this Kondaria Mahadev temple, the most famous temple of Khajuraho area. You will see the Dilwara temple in Gujarat. This temple was made of marble. It is the finest symbol of Moru Gurjar architectural concept. The famous Rani Ki Baz, Queen's Step Well, is a very grand step well in Patan of Gujarat, once the Solanki capital. In Ocean, you can find Mahavira Jaina temple. It is constructed in 783 AD making it the oldest surviving Jaina temple in western India. Another important temple is Bateshwara Hindu temple. It is in Madhya Pradesh, was constructed during the Gurjar Pratihar Empire between 8th to 11th century AD. There are other temples and Baroli. The Baroli temple complex have 8 temples built during the Gurjar Pratiharas. It is mostly built by the king Mihir Bhoja, and another cave structure, Siddhachara cave structure, we can find in Jaina architecture in Gwalior. Ghateshwara Mahadeva temple at Baroli is also another important and attractive temple of this period. Literature. The Rajput rulers patronized arts and literature. Paramar ruler of Munjo and Bhoja are well-known scholars of great repute. Bhoja patronized literary giants such as Padmagupta, Dhanika, Halayudha, Dhananjaya, Amitragati, etc. Rajasekhara, the author of the drama Karpura Manjari in Prakrit, was patronized by Mahendra Pala of Kanauj. Kalhana, the author of Rajatarangini, Soma Suri, the author of Katha Sarita Sagar, Chand Bardai, the author of Prithviraj Raso, and Brihada Katha Manjari belong to this period. Vernacular literature also made a beginning in this period. Hemchand Suri, a great Jain poet, deserves to be remembered for his services. At last, we can say that the Rajputs, though they originated in the latter part of the early medieval period, around 9th and 10th centuries, they became one of the powerful clans of India. They became the most powerful enemies of the invaders who came from Afghanistan or Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, or all these people, whether they ruled as sultans or they became Mughal emperors, they had to fight with the Rajputs. The Rajputs created a brave history, and they produced a number of heroes and heroines which became legends for the succeeding generations. Today we discussed about the Rajputs, we discussed about their origin, and also we discussed how they established different kingdoms in northwestern region, particularly in Rajasthan, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh up to Bihar, and finally how they became one of the powerful groups of the Indian rulers who bravely faced the foreign invasions. I believe I will like to continue this discussion when we will discuss about the empires in remote south, that is of the Cholas. The next class we will discuss about the imperial Cholas and their contributions to the history of India. Thank you very much.